Welcome to the Studio podcast. My name is Priscilla and I am your host. And I'm on a mission to help luxurious interior designers reclaim their precious time and elevate their services to turn their interior design business into a 7-figure company. How? Keep listening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Hello, Kati.
Hi.
Katie. How do you want me to call you?
Katie.
Okay, Katie.
Even though I like how your accent says Kati, but...
Yes. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm good, even though it's raining.
I know. It's so dreary, but it actually makes for a good work day. So...
That is so true. Yeah. And the background noise is very nice to work with.
Yeah, and I always keep the lights in my office off because I have such good natural light, but it's so dim in here. I'm like, this is kind of nice.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I do the same. I don't even have any lights on right now. Well, Katie is an interior designer. She is the owner of Mountain Ave Interiors. Is that correct?
Yes.
And today, she is going to be telling us a little bit about how she grew her business and the behind the scenes of it. So just to get started, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start growing your interior design business and kind of what sparked the journey?
Yeah. So I always knew that I was going to have my own business. Even since I was a kid, I was always interested in people who had their own businesses, and whatever my hobbies were at the time, my thought was always still is how do I make a business out of this? And always interested in interior design, even as a kid, but I just didn't know really what it was and that was a career. But I just remember always going through my house as a kid and redrawing rooms and changing the way something looked to feel a certain way. And I also was obsessed with the game Sims. I don't know if you played that game, but I loved building the houses and decorating the houses. And I just always had that in me. But I always knew I was going to have a business. I just didn't always know what it was going to be. So when I got really serious about getting into interior design, that was 2018. I knew I was getting into it to own a business in design. So I went back to school in, I think it was 2019. And I just had a different perspective because I knew I was doing it to have a business in design. So I think my perspective during school was a little bit different than other students that I was with.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. You knew from such an early stage in your life that you wanted to do this and you already had your mind in it.
Yeah. And even though every day I'm why am I supposed to be doing this? Should I do this? It feels so right. Even though there's challenges, that we'll talk about, but it feels where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we always ask those questions to ourselves when we are doing something that is a big thing. And starting a business is a huge thing. And obviously it is so normal to be asking yourself, am I supposed to be doing this? But I mean, you're doing great. So keep doing it. So why do you decide to share the behind the scenes of your business growth? And what do you hope that others can learn from it?
I love talking about this, whether it's my story or hearing other people's stories. I just feel it's so inspiring to hear about how other people got to where they are today. And those are some of my favorite stories to listen to because it's good to hear everyone else's journey, right? Because sometimes you feel you're not doing it right or you're not doing enough or you're not where you should be. And so I think it is good to hear what other people are doing. And when you hear enough stories, you realize oh, they're all different. There's not one path to go on, right? So if I can share my story and it inspires someone that's on a similar path, that's amazing. And I love that because I get that out of listening to other people too.
Yes, that is actually so true. I do that too sometimes. I listen to bits of podcast episodes or watch some videos about people growing their businesses. Maybe it's not even interior design, but I always can learn a little something here and there that I can be doing different. And it's, I don't know, so interesting how we can help each other with this.
Totally. And sometimes when you're just starting out, especially, and I'm still very new in this, but like, especially when you're like, even before you start or just starting, you feel all that self-doubt of like, oh, I can't do this. I don't have a degree in this. I don't have a master's in business. Like, but then when you hear other people's stories who are really successful and they have like a similar beginning, you're like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, why not? So it's great. It's good to share.
Yeah. So true. There are so many times where I'm sitting here and I'm like, shouldn't I have a degree in business or something if I'm doing this? What am I even doing? And then I just look at people who are very successful now, who started from actually nothing all the way from scratch. And they're doing great. So as you said, this is something that we can do. Okay, so let's talk about when you started the journey. What are some of the first steps you took when you decided to start your interior design business?
So I'll say that I'm still very much in the growth phase, right? So this is year 2 for me. But one of the very first things I did when I started is I hired a business coach, and she helped me focus on mindset. And it's funny because I was like kind of skeptical when I signed on with her, and I really liked her as a person. And so I was like, let's see what happens. There's a few months. It can't hurt, right? And so a lot of it was focused on growth mindset. And that helped me so much in the very beginning because it helped me get out of this like intense self-doubt that I had starting out. And I don't know if it's the same for everyone. I feel like it probably is. But when you're starting something new, there's so much like negative self-talk of like, I can't do this. Like, why would anyone hire me? Like, I'm not that good. Like, because then you're comparing yourself to other people that you're seeing, right? And so that was like probably the most important thing when I look back that helped me like get to where I am now. And mindset is a huge, huge part of being successful, I believe.
Yes, 100%. And I also started a coaching program like months ago, and same thing. I was and I'm still working on it. All right. It's not something that I have like gone over. But it was so much worse at the beginning. I was like, not really believing that I was worthy of having the business and having the clients I want. And I was not really mentally open to receiving like money and, like that negative mindset. And definitely having a business coach helps you a lot to change that. And I don't know, and be open to all the opportunities and believe that you are worthy and deserve everything that is coming for you. And that everything that gets to you, you're also working for it. It's not just coming because like, I don't know, it rained on you,
No, yeah, it's amazing. Like, before I started my business, I always heard about, self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all those things. And it's not until I started when I really experienced that, I'm like, oh, this is a real thing. And like, it shows up in different ways for people. And for me, like one of the first things that I realized I was doing was like, I was like not telling people that I owned a business. Like I felt like I was faking. Like I felt like if I said, oh, I'm a business owner, like I'm lying. Like it felt so wrong to say that. And I remember my coach is like, we worked on that a lot because she's like, why can't you say that? Like, why does it feel wrong? And like we worked through that. But I'm like, wow, that's like a real thing.
Yeah. And that happened to me too. And even sometimes now I'm still like, maybe it's very specific people that I'm like, should I talk about my business or not? And it's like, why not? Like people talk about their jobs all the time. And this is my job. Even if I'm like the one running it is my job and it's as serious as any other job.
Yeah, for sure. It's a hard thing to overcome.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something very important because you can be putting obstacles to yourself that way. And in order to grow, you need to accept the growth.
Definitely.
So with that, let's take that little phrase and tell me a specific moment when you noticed that your interior design business was starting to grow.
This was like a hard thing to think of because I don't know that I can pinpoint one specific moment, but it might be that like when I like booked my first client, like when someone actually paid me and I was like, oh, like someone trusts me enough and believes in me to pay me all this money to do this work. And I'm like, I must be doing something right. Like I must be presenting myself in the right way where someone else who doesn't even know me feels like, oh, she's worth this, or like this service is worth this, you know? So that was a big thing. I think that was probably the first moment I was like, oh, okay. Like I guess I have a business.
Yeah, I think every business owner will always remember their first client with a lot of detail. It's like such an exciting moment when you get your first client and you get paid and you are like, oh, this is actually happening. I'm actually doing it. So yeah, I think I can relate with that. Well, and as you mentioned before, growing a business also comes with a lot of challenges. So tell us a little bit about some of the biggest obstacles that you faced when you were trying to grow your interior design business.
So one of the biggest challenges I faced and still face today is working alone. I didn't realize how isolating this can feel sometimes. And I thought I was going to love working by myself and, you know, making all the decisions and having the final say in everything. But I realized like I don't. Like not having someone who's like as invested as I am in this business to like bounce ideas off of and just like chat with or help me like work through something is really hard. But I am a part of another interior design coaching group now with an awesome, amazing community. So it's so great to have people who are in the same industry, like they're all solo, well, not all solo, but all business owners. And so to have those women to talk to about like certain challenges is really great. But again, like they're not sitting here with me. So it's hard to be solely alone and having to make like every decision on your own. And you're like, is this the right thing? Should I do this? And you don't really have anyone who is as invested as you are to like help you make that decision.
Yeah. And that was a hard one for me because I don't know if you knew, but at the beginning I was doing this with a very good friend. So we were sharing all the decisions and we used to get on calls every week to talk about what we were going to do and this and the other. And then I think it was around April or May. I can't remember exactly, but somewhere around there, she decided to stop doing this because she already is an interior designer and she already has her interior design clients. So as you can imagine, she is super busy. So she was like, okay, I know that you really want to keep doing this, so I will pass it to you. And if at some point I have some more time, I will let you know and you can take me in as whatever you want in the business. So obviously I was really sad to like see her go, but I mean, I completely understood, but it was a big jump from like sharing all the business decisions and doing everything together to doing everything by myself and sometimes not even knowing what to do. Like even now, sometimes I don't know what to do.
Yeah, same. There are days like I sit at my computer. I'm like, okay, I need to like just focus. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Even though I have like a to-do list, it's like sometimes you just need someone else there to like take the reins, right? And be like, okay, today we need to get this done. Like it's hard to always be your self-motivator.
Yeah. And I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes I feel like if I'm not doing something for the business, I'm not being productive.
Yes, all the time. And I feel so guilty. And I have to like remind, like, so if like sometimes, you know, if I just work half a day and then I have other things to do, I feel so guilty. But then I have to remind myself, I'm like, this is why I wanted my own business. So I had this time to be able to do other things whenever I wanted to. But it's still like, if I don't work a full day, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not working hard enough. I'm not doing enough. There's all of that.
Yeah, no, that happens to me too. And like, even with my messaging, I am always like on social media or my podcast episodes, I'm always saying that we should take our time to take care of ourselves and focus on what makes us feel good and not be working all the time because we can get burnout. And then I sometimes struggle to follow that. I mean, not sometimes, pretty often I struggle to follow my own advice. Because of this, because I feel like if I'm not doing something for the business, I'm not being productive or I'm not moving forward or I don't know, I'm being lazy, kind of. It can be hard to be growing a business by yourself, but is there anything that you found useful to overcome that challenge?
I think just having other people to talk to who are in a similar situation, because even just talking to you right now, like realize that, oh, you do that too. Okay, I feel a little bit better. And so having like these friends in this community, it helps a lot, because you often, you feel isolated and you feel like you're not doing enough. And like, I'm the only one that feels like this, or like everyone else seems so busy and so successful. Like, why don't I feel like that? So it's good to have friends that are in a similar place.
Yeah. And even like you doing those coaching programs, that is super helpful. And together we're like being in a community of like either interior designers or entrepreneurs or whatever it is really, really helpful. There are also like a bunch of Facebook groups that I used to be in. I'm still in those, but I'm not really active anymore. That are very helpful, because those like woman groups, like I think one of the groups is called like Woman Helping Woman, or like Woman Entrepreneur Helping Woman, or something like that. And those ones are amazing. Like you ask something that you don't know what to do with your business, like a very silly question, and they always have like a good answer for you, and they are willing to help. You can always find the ones that are trying to like low key sell their services to you while they are trying to help you, and you can notice. But there are some of them that are either like genuinely trying to help you, or they are really good at not being like obvious with it. So that's another thing that maybe you or anyone listening to this episode can do if they feel like alone in their business. All right, so moving forward, how do you approach learning and adapting as your interior design business grew?
So I really value learning and education, and I love to learn. I'm so happy that I went to school for design, because I learned so many like technical skills in school that would be not impossible to learn outside of school, but a lot more challenging. So I'm super grateful that I did get a degree in design, but I'm still always learning. Like I take advantage of so many free resources, whether it's podcasts or books. And a lot of it has to do with like business related things, because there's still so much I don't know, or like don't know how to navigate. And so I always, whether I'm looking a blog or a podcast or a book, something, I'm always trying to learn more in business. And I think you have to, as a business owner, you always have to be open to learning new ways of doing things, because things are always changing, right? Especially like in our industry.
Yeah, I always think that even when we get very, very old and we are in like our late years in life, we are still learning stuff. I don't think there is such a thing as like someone that knows everything or that has learned everything. And I think it's really great when I meet people who are open to keep learning constantly and that actually want to keep learning constantly. And that's the way to grow your business and like also grow yourself at the same time that you're growing your business.
For sure.
So what will you say that are some key lessons you learned from your journey so far?
Well, one of the biggest things I think is that I didn't realize how much my lifestyle was going to change starting a business, right? And so in the beginning and still now, like feels really isolating and trying to keep myself motivated. And there's so many days that feel like, I don't want to do this right now. I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. Like just trying to keep moving forward. And like that changes your lifestyle, changes you a lot. And so I feel like I've changed so much in the past 2 years.
Yes, I can definitely relate to that. And actually the other day I was talking, I think it was actually with my business coach. And I was like laughing because I said, this journey is making like look at myself, like reflect about myself and think about the actual things I like and I don't like about myself, because those also represent my brand, because obviously our personalities also represent our brands. So it's not just about the business, it's also about ourselves. And I don't know, it can be challenging sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you told me that growing your business is a constant lesson and that you're always learning new things, and that is totally true. Can you share an example of how being open to this constant learning contributed to the growth of your interior design business?
Yeah, so a lot of it was being open to like being coached. And I value being coached so much, like from the very beginning. So this this is my second coach that I've been working with, and it's a group coaching program. And I mean, that has gotten me so far, where I've learned really the right way to price my services, the best process for a project, and how to get from beginning to end. I mean, that has helped me so much because I'm really into like systems and processes for things. And in interior design, there's so many moving parts. So it was really overwhelming to be starting out with not a lot of experience running a project myself, of like, what's the best process for this? What makes sense? And I feel like I was kind of like on a hamster wheel because I kept doing the same thing over and over, so learning from experienced designers on like, this is the best way to do it and just stick to it. That has been huge for my growth. And I feel like I'm able to take on bigger projects and be able to do them in a way that is profitable for me and gives my client a really good experience.
Yeah, that is actually so important. Actually, I recently started to change some of my processes in my business and adjust some of the stuff that were not really working either for me or my clients. So I can relate to that so much. I actually really want to know, after this, we can chat about who are you coaching with. I'm very interested on that. It's just having the right processes and structures and strategies in place is so important, because even though you can take clients without like having good ones in place, you cannot take like bigger ones and more complex ones. And if you're trying to grow your business to the point that is like huge, we are talking about like, 7 figures or over that, you need those processes in place. Something that once my coach asked me, and I was like, oh, damn. She asked me, if tomorrow 1,000 clients came knocking your door, are you ready to receive them? And I was like, oh, I don't think I am.
That's so funny you say that, because I went through a similar thing where, so for the past like year or the beginning of this year, I really started to focus on my processes and my client experience. And I'm working with these amazing clients right now who I just adore. They are my ideal clients through and through. They're amazing. The project is looking great. And I thought to myself, if they start referring me to their circle, am I ready to take on those clients and give them the experience that I want? And I was like, no, I'm not. So I literally was like a crazy person, like getting these systems up and running, because like, that's so true. Like, you don't know when your next inquiry is going to come in, and you don't know if it's going to be 2 in a week for projects that you would really take on. And like, are you ready to do that? And if you say no, like, then you need to like figure it out because you don't want to miss those opportunities because you're not ready.
Exactly. And it's like, and you start getting scared of like that happening and you don't have the processes or the systems. So yeah, I would say that having those in a good place from the beginning, even when you have like maybe just 2 clients, like when you just start, that you have like the first few clients, you still need those in place, because I don't know, who knows? Maybe tomorrow, someone that posts you on Instagram, they have like a bunch of followers and they start coming to you.
Exactly. And your clients don't need to know that you only have 2 clients. And if you present your business in a way that's so organized and the process is seamless and amazing, they're going to be like, oh, she must be like doing this all the time. Like, they have it so put together. Like, no one needs to know, like, they might be your only client or your first client. But if you have it set up in a way and you present yourself in a certain way, no one, would ever know.
That is so true. I really like that little tip. I think that will be very helpful for a lot of designers who think that they have to not just designers, every business owner, I feel we go through that stage where we think that we have to show or pretend that we have a bunch of clients. And no one actually needs to know or cares about how many clients you have. It's about exactly what you were saying, the seamless process, the systems, the everything. Everything of the behind the scenes of your business. Okay, so what advice will you give to other designers who are considering or currently trying to grow their businesses?
I have a few. So do you know who Marie Forleo is?
It sounds familiar, but I can't tell from the top of my head.
I just know of her from like Instagram and stuff, but she has some like business coaching programs for entrepreneurs. And she always she has this line that she always says, and it's everything is figure outable. And it has stuck with me for years. And it's so true. Like, you just have to remember that you can figure anything out. If you remember that, like, you can get through anything, right? Like, there's so much as business owners that, like, we don't know, like, whether it's tax stuff, accounting things, bookkeeping, but you can figure it out. Like, you're a smart person. If you're an interior designer, you're a smart person because it's not easy. And so you can figure it out. Another piece of advice I would give is to set goals, whether it's big and small, but write them down and read them. And like, when you read them, like, feel how you'll feel when you accomplish those goals. And I swear to God, it works. And I've literally have brought myself to tears before because I'll read like an old goal that I'd written down and I'm like, oh, I did that. And it's like so specific and it's amazing what it can do. And I know sometimes people are like, oh, that's just like foo-foo, whatever, this manifesting thing. But I swear to God, it actually works.
Yeah. I mean, manifesting works.
It totally does, like in a weird, scary way. But exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mental thing. Everything that we actually put in our heads and that we think that we are going to accomplish it and that we can picture it, we are going to do it. It's just, everything is a mental thing. Manifesting is not about any kind of like, I don't know, magic or hippie thing, that some people think. It's just about setting a goal in your mind and actually visualizing it and putting that goal to yourself.
Yeah. And I know as interior designers, we're really good at visualizing things. So if you can visualize how a living room is going to look, you can visualize how your life is going to look. It can be done.
We talk about a couple of advices that you would give interior designers who are trying to grow their businesses. We talk a little bit like, I like to say, if there is a problem, there's always a solution, because if there wasn't a problem, there wouldn't be a solution. So that goes a little bit hand to hand with what you said. So with that in mind, how do you think that understanding the behind the scenes of your business can help other interior designers in their growing their business journey?
Well, I think that a really important thing is to know where you want to go, because like, if you have a goal, it's easy to backtrack and say like, okay, so what do I need to do to get there? And if you're just kind of floating out there and like don't really have a real direction, it's really hard to have a focus and like work on the back end things. And so for me, recently, the last few months, I've changed my niche a little bit and like my ideal client and my ideal project locations. And by doing that, I was really able to work through the things on the back end of my business a lot easier. And like that being like my client experience. And so like when I envisioned who my ideal client was and figured out like what would they want with working with an interior designer, it was easier for me to work through that client experience process on my back end. So I think just knowing where you want to go will help you figure out what you need to do.
Yeah. And also knowing that if you need to make changes or pivot from some point to another point in your business at any time is totally okay too. Because sometimes the way that we start is not the way that we are when we are in the middle or like getting to the end, or at any point we are constantly, same as us, like people are constantly growing and their mind is constantly changing. Businesses are too. I mean, the core of it is the same. And again, same as people, like the core of us is always the same. Like inside us, like deep inside, we are always the same, but there are stuff that are constantly changing as we grow and we learn new experiences. So the businesses too, and that is sort of okay. It doesn't have to stay the exact same way it was at the beginning. And it actually, if you think about big businesses and brands, and you see their journey when they just started to where they are right now, it's never the same. Also, I mean, the public and the audience and however you want to call it, it's also changing constantly, and the times are changing and the trends are changing, and whatever people want is constantly changing too. And also, like, if your ideal client changes, that is okay too. I actually am going through a stage where my ideal client is pivoting a little bit. And at the beginning, and I'm still trying to work on like getting out of that mindset, but at the beginning I was like scared of actually showing what I want or showing myself. I was trying to include everyone in like the mix, and you cannot serve everyone. You have to be very specific. So I mostly like to work with like women, and they're like pretty young, just like you, that are very passionate, ambitious. They have a lot of experiences with different cultures sometimes. I won't get too specific in this, but all I wanted to say is anyone who is listening and they might be thinking about changing their path or ideal client or something, that is sort of okay too. I mean, I'm not talking about changing every 5 seconds, but when it feels right and when your heart is telling you like, this is not serving me anymore, that is the moment where you need to sit and rethink everything you're doing and actually deep thinking about what actually serves you and makes you happy, because obviously we are in business to make money and that's the truth, but we are also here in this niche because we are passionate about it. So in our case, interior design, we're passionate about it, and that has to bring us good stuff. So our client has to bring us happiness too. I don't know if any of this makes sense.
For sure. And as entrepreneurs, we have so many ideas, right? We're always thinking and envisioning and like, so it's so easy to feel like you're bouncing around a lot. But I think actually in the beginning, it's good to try a lot of things and see what really works, because you don't know unless you try, right? And like from the beginning, I thought my ideal client was one thing, and I tried to kind of mold myself to fit that. And then I was having a hard time in my design process, like with things really coming together. I'm like, why doesn't this feel right? Why can't I like put this together? And then I realized I'm like, because I'm not being true to who I am as a designer. That's why it's not feeling right. And so once I switched that, everything felt so much more natural. And like, I liked how things were coming out a little bit better. So like when you really like read into who you are as a designer, it's easier to produce like good work. But if you're trying to maybe fit into what you're seeing on Instagram or a designer that you admire, it's not going to feel natural. You have to find your own path. And like, I will admit, I'm totally guilty of seeing something on Instagram, like, oh my God, I love how that looks. Like, I wish like my style was like that. And then when you try to emulate something that's not true to you, it doesn't work because it's not really like who you are. It's not your mind.
Yeah, totally. And also, I mean, I'm guilty of that too, of like trying to follow trends and comparing myself to other people who do the same thing as I do and trying to be like them because maybe at some point I saw they were, or they seem to be more successful than me, because the actual truth is that we don't know the behind the scenes of their business. And maybe they are not, or maybe they are, but their ways are not compatible with you. Every story, as you said at the beginning of this podcast, every story and every journey is completely different and it is unique to you. So when you try to like kind of like impersonate that other person, is not gonna work. And it's also gonna bring you clients that don't make you happy, that don't make you feel like that you are in the right place. When you start doing what it makes you feel yourself and you are true to yourself, you attract the kind of client that is your dream client. And maybe you didn't even know that that was your dream client until you met that kind of client and it felt so natural and so good.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny you say that because I'm working on a project right now with like dream clients. I just adore them. And that's kind of why I started to change my ideal client, like was based on them. So once I like got that on paper, I kind of changed the vision for my business and all of that and start to visualize what that could be. Like literally not even a week later, I received like an inquiry from another ideal client in an ideal project location that's like literally to a T of what I had been envisioning. And then I actually start with them next week. And that was like a huge moment of where I'm like, oh my gosh, like this like goal setting and like manifesting literally works. Because I was like, this is like weirdly exact.
Yeah. And that is like so amazing. And I hope this that you just said encouraged other interior designers to stay true to themselves and to envision the actual ideal client they want and not what they think they should be doing.
Like this is totally different than what I had thought I would be doing when I started my business because it's in a whole different area. Like I don't even live in this area. that I want to work in. So I like didn't even think that was a possibility, but like then once you set your intention and change direction, like it will come.
That is so true. And well, the last thing I want to say about that is that just don't be scared to be your true self, because it can be scary. It can be scary to show your actual personality and your actual self on your professional side, if that makes sense, because I feel like we tend to separate our like personal self and our business self as if we were two different people, and we are actually the same. Our life are like kind of separated, but not separated completely. So we cannot separate our personalities and put on our like, I don't know, business owner suit. And now I have this personality.
And what we do is so personal, right? We're in people's homes, we're meeting their family. We're really like involved in their life. And I really believe that at the end of the day, like they're hiring you for you, not your portfolio. Your client knows like they have to like you to get a good result, and vice versa. Like you have to like your clients as well, like because you work so closely with people. And as we know, projects can take years. If it's a large scale renovation, like you're with these people for years. Like you have to like them and they have to like you to have this like good relationship.
Yeah. And also like aspects of you and your life can help you connect with your ideal client, because like maybe it's the smallest, silliest things. Like you and I, we have cats. That's something that can like bring us closer. I love coffee, and maybe, I don't know, one of my clients love coffee, and that is something that can bring us closer. And those are like stuff that are like not business related at all. It's like so personal. There are like very small detail, like stuff, teeny tiny stuff that on a day to day, on a regular conversation, when you are having that conversation with a client, it can just help you build a relationship and make you feel comfortable with them and then comfortable with you. And as you said, sometimes you are years working with them and you need to be in a comfortable spot.
Yeah. And you really end up getting to know your clients because again, like you're in their home, you're working in their most like personal spaces, like you're working in their bedroom or like their bathroom. Like you just have to get to know them, and you do naturally just by working with them. But it is important, back to what you said, to just be your true self, because people can read through a fake front, right? Like if you're trying to be one thing and you're not, like people can sense that. And like really what people want is just someone they trust, someone who they like and get along with. That's like 80% of it. Like even if you don't have the best portfolio, like no one has the best portfolio. But if like you are genuine and you're trustworthy and people can sense that and they like you, like they'll hire you for you.
And also like another thing to have in mind is that maybe someone has the same quality of portfolio as you, and maybe they have like the same range of prices. So what is going to differentiate you from that other person that is almost like not exact, but like very similar to you? Like you are in the same area, right? What is going to make your clients choose you over them? And that is going to be the personal connection and how they like you as a person. It's just so important. And I mean, again, I am guilty of like trying to be or fit in something that I am not. And that is something that I feel like we all constantly work on, because obviously we all want to be accepted. And there is the fear of like not being accepted when you are yourself, or you think like, oh, well, maybe people won't like me because I am this, and this. And I mean, people who don't like you because of that, they shouldn't be in your life. And you're going to attract the people that should be in your life and you didn't even know.
That's so true.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, how the kind of like the behind the scenes of growing your interior design business brought you a little bit closer to your dream life?
Well, I think that like a lot of things that I do because of how I envision like this dream life. When you have a vision and like a goal for yourself and for your life, it's so much easier to get through the hard parts. Some of the hardest parts of owning a business are like these beginning phases where like you don't know how to do a lot of things and it's hard to keep going. Because I feel like every business owner has this common vision of like this dream life where they have time to travel and do whatever they want. They can spend their time how they want. And so like if you remember, okay, this is why I wanted to do this, it's so much easier to get through those hard things. You just have to remember the goal.
Yes. Yeah, that is so true. So true. I mean, there are moments when you probably, all of us think like, should I stop doing this? Should I give up? Should I I don't know, pass it to someone else? Should I just go get a regular job? I mean, in those moments, I think we all should, most of us do, sit and think, why did I start doing this? How was my life before that? And what is my goal that I will keep having that goal even if I stop doing this, but I won't be able to reach it if I stop doing this.
And if I'm glad you brought that up because I also have those moments of, should I just stop doing this and go get a real job, right? But you have to, and what I do is think, okay, if I go get a real job with a salary in a year after that, am I going to want what I have now? And then am I going to be thinking, oh my gosh, what if I just kept going? Where would I be? And I know that I would have those thoughts, even though having a salary job sometimes is so tempting right now, in these beginning phases. I know that I will have those thoughts of where would I have been if I kept going? Do I really want to then kind of start all over? Absolutely not. I need to keep going. And those I'm going to butcher this, but those videos or pictures or whatever of these, it's always a little cartoon, but it's a little guy who's mining through a tunnel and he's going and going and going. And then he's right there. He's one more inch away and he gives up because he's been doing it for so long. I have a fear of if I wanting to give up right at the best point, we don't know. That's why you just have to keep going.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, I have seen that picture so many times. And as soon as you said it, I was like, yes, I know what are you talking about. It is so true. And I mean, if you think about it, as we said at some point in this episode too, every big brand or every big company, they start from zero too. And they had a rough and hard journey too. Well, I mean, maybe some of them, they were born multimillionaires and it was easy for them. But most of them and most of us, we didn't. Moving on, when you were growing your business, was there a part when that behind the scenes of growing the business made you realize a thing about your dream life that you didn't know before? Maybe something that you wanted for your life or a specific goal that came to your mind while you were growing your business?
I think what happened was that I just got confirmation of this is what I want. Well, I know I started my business for a purpose, but there's always that doubt of, let me just try it and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I think as I go, and I actually recently just earlier this year completed my first real project and I had it photographed, and looking at how that came out was a moment where I was okay, I can do this. And just that was when I was I need to keep going. This is it. Let's just keep going. And it affects my dream life because now I can really picture having this business grow. Before that, it was always kind of on a day by day basis of maybe it will grow, maybe it won't. But after seeing this complete project and what I was able to do as my first project, I was okay, let's keep going,
Yeah, that makes total sense. And that is very encouraging for everyone listening to this too, because this is just a reminder that at some point you will be okay, this is working. It's always a challenge, but it's not going to be always hard. At some point, it gets better.
Yes, it totally does. And what can be challenging about interior design is sometimes the projects take a long time to come together. So you're not seeing the result and that satisfaction for a long time. So it's easy to lose sight of what you've done. But then once you see it all together and complete, you're oh my gosh, I did that. This was my vision and I got it to reality, So that was a huge moment, was seeing this first project really complete. And I'm so proud of it and happy with how it came out. And it was a real moment for me where I kind of erased all of that self-doubt and was I can do this. Clearly I can do this. Here's proof, right? You there's proof for me. It's not about anybody else, but it was for me to prove to myself oh, I can do this.
That is so beautiful. And I feel that moment must feel so fulfilling. And it is one of the first small goals, or like not small goals, but like maybe big goals that an interior designer has, like seeing the first project completed and how beautiful it feels.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I didn't know that I would feel that way. Like I was super excited to have it complete and photographed. And when I got the photos back, I literally like started to cry because I was so proud of that. It's amazing. It was such a great feeling.
Yeah. That is so beautiful. I love that. I love that so much. So as we wrap up this episode, what is the next exciting step in the growing your business journey?
My next step for growth is to really nail down my client experience, like processes, all my behind the scenes stuff. And that's what I've been working on. And it's always evolving. Again, we always talk about like everything's always evolving, and it's true. But I want to get it into a place where, like we mentioned, like if I get a flood of inquiries, I want to be able to take on those projects. So just a lot of like behind the scenes work for me, getting that nailed down, looking into like automation software like Dubsado or Honeybook, bringing those sort of things in. That's my next step. And I'm excited because as I love processes and stuff. So I'm excited to have that cleaned up.
That is amazing. I'm actually in something similar right now. I actually started doing some KPIs for the next couple of months. And the next one, like the one that is starting now, well, next week, because next week is already September. That is so crazy. The one that I'm starting next week, I also have like setting up the client workflow and those systems and creating all the processes and a smooth, seamless experience for the client. So I feel you there. So if at some point you need to like chat about that, we can just share ideas and insights.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any final thoughts or encouragement ideas for interior designers who are very excited to get on their growth path?
I would say just don't forget to have fun. There's a lot of stress and worry and whatever, but like have fun. And interior design is a fun career. It is challenging beyond what a lot of people think, like what we do. And there's a lot of challenges, but just have fun. And like, I try to remind myself every day that like, I love what I do. And there are so many moments throughout these last 2 years where I've stopped and been like, I can't believe this is my job. Like, I love this. And don't forget, like, if you're going along and you're like, I don't love this, that's okay too, because nothing is permanent. You can always pivot. You can change what you're doing in your life. But whatever you're doing, just like, don't forget to have fun, because the stress and whatnot can eat you alive really fast. So just try to keep it light.
I love that. Thank you so much for those words. I'm pretty sure that it would be very encouraging and very nice for interior designers who are trying to grow their business right now to hear that. And for any business owners, that was beautiful.
Thanks.
So we got to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me and to share your experience and your ideas and thoughts. And I'm very sure that interior designers will be able to take a lot from it. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. This was so fun. I always love sharing my story with other people. And I love these conversations, these open conversations about similar struggles and challenges and how you can overcome them, because we're a community, whether it's interior designers or women in business or just business owners in general. Like, we all go through these similar things. So it's really nice to have these conversations.
For sure. For sure. And I would love to have in another episode at some point. So I really enjoyed this. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
All right, everyone listening. I hope I see you next week in another episode, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to the Sur Studio podcast. We love to have in our community. Let's be friends on social media. You can find us on Instagram at surstudio.id or check out our website at surstudiointeriordesign.com. This was Priscilla from Sur Studio, and I look forward to have you on our next episode.